This is a song to all the ladies.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small. I am Catwoman. Hear me roar. Oh, woman! Yeah!
All this way for my advice, I feel like Oprah.
Oh, woman! Yeah! Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Meaning, what the hell? I'm not going to worry about if people accept me or not. I'm going to make Hollywood wherever I am at.
Welcome, everyone, to the Screen Queens, where we discuss movies directed by women, from the women that shattered the glass ceiling to those carrying the torch today. I'm your host, Tope, Eletu, and I'm here with my co-host, Carris.
Hey.
How are you?
I am all right. I'm making it. How you doing?
I'm making it, too. I'm doing it. I slept, which is a huge deal for someone who has a toddler. So,
oh, my God.
I'm here.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm excited. And, I love that you are on this podcast with me because it's kind of been a journey trying to find somebody to do this with. I've had multiple people on this podcast as guests, but I really love our kind of banters that we have about movies offline and how every now and again you'll just send me a text message like, I have this thing with my class and I need your help picking a movie. And it fills me with so much joy to do all the research and stuff. So this makes you the perfect person to have on this podcast to kind of be my co-adventurer on this journey.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I'm honored to be here because I don't know, sometimes you get to a point where you don't want to take in content. And so I've been watching Living Single for a very long time. So
I love that for you.
Me too.
Yeah,
okay, me too. But when you reach out with the opportunity, it's like, Carris, you can do it. You can watch a movie.
Yeah.
So thanks for inviting me to
these days, some of the streaming channels even have commercial breaks, so you can just pause it, continue later on. I do love that. I know that. We always still love the place the cinema has to be able to go to the movie theater and sit down and watch something the whole way through. But, postpartum and all that stuff, I don't always have the capacity to sit through a long thing. So I love streaming that gives you that opportunity to pause and maybe go get a drink, use the bathroom, maybe come back to it, particularly if there's a particularly harrowing scene that you need to make it through. So I love that streaming gives you that opportunity.
Agreed. So what did streaming provide to us for this month?
For this month, and let me just give people a little heads up. The last time we did this podcast thing together, we watched Debs.
Yeah, we did. I forgot.
DEBS.
We did.
Love you, Angela Robinson. That movie was a place and time. It definitely really highlighted. It was a very camp movie. I think that's what we concluded. It was very camp. It was specific to that place and time in history, and we'll forever love it for where it is right there. Today's movie is very different. Today's movie is Valley Girl, directed by Martha Coolidge. And I have been wanting to watch this movie for a really long time. It's been burning a hole in my watch list. And the reason being is that this is technically Nicolas Cage's first first breakout movie.
Ah, okay.
Like Baby Cage. So it was that, and of course, it was something kind of really just light and fluffy. And I do have a confession to make to anyone's listening. I absolutely do not like rom-coms.
What? I didn't know this about you.
So see, every time, me and my husband Greg, we have this little spinner, and it helps us pick genre and year every day whenever we want to watch a movie. And every time it lands a romance, I'm like, God damn it. I do not want to watch a bunch of people confessing their love to each other, and you think, oh, they gonna make it. And then suddenly the guy, the girl does something super dumb. I don't know. I could go on. I could have a whole podcast about why I don't like rom-coms, but I'm challenging myself.
We may need to have that podcast. We may
right?
need to, yeah.
Yes,
right. I get it.
Oh, but I'm challenging myself to watch them, and I do love some rom-coms, particularly from the 80s. It's like a time and a place, and so this felt like a really nice way to kick off and just restart the podcast again. And we'll just give you a little background about the director, Martha Coolidge. One of the reasons I found out about Valley Girl was because my husband really loves her movie, Real Genius. Have you ever seen that?
I have not.
Okay. Real Genius has Kilmer, baby Val. Oh, he is so pretty. He's so hot.
He's a gorgeous man.
Gorgeous
back in
man.
those days. Yeah.
And I think this is probably also one of his earlier movies, like his breakout. Like a lot of people in that movie became like big. And he's just this cocky, like science student at college. He's like, obviously from the title, a real genius. And he's working with this professor, like they're trying to come up with this incredible piece of scientific breakthrough. And it's just kind of the story about, another kid. He's like a little young to be at college, and kind of the friendship that's formed with all of these nerds and the things they get up to. So it's really fun. It's a really interesting film. I highly recommend you watch it. And so it got me looking at other things that she had done. And I was like, Valley Girl, what's Valley Girl? And so the more that I delved into it and her work, she apparently she directed a Dorothy Dandridge biopic with Halle Berry, which I haven't seen, but I think it was like made for TV. And, she had all of these kind of big hits and then eventually just kind of went into television, directing like just TV movies and TV episodes like, Crime Scene Investigation, CIS, The Twilight Zone, Drop Dead Diva. Apparently she did an episode of Sex and the City. So I was like, let me see, like, why did you go down this route? Like, let me see what else you did. So that's why we're picking Valley Girl today.
Cool. I love too that she made a way, like being a creative is always difficult. It's difficult to be passionate about a thing that's inherently unfair.
Yeah.
Like the arts.
Exactly.
But she made her own path and kept going. So that's pretty cool.
She did. And, I kind of noticed as I was doing research and also just kind of finding more movies that I wanted to watch, there are a lot of female directors that start out with this dream of wanting to do features, wanting to kind of do things that will end up in a movie theater. And just from the lack of support and funding, they end up going, they gotta pay the bills. Mm-hmm. So like they end up going to do TV and TV episodes. And so it's a lot of these singular 1 hour opportunities for them, which like really sucks because we know that there are men making terrible movies all the time and they get funded. They get funded at the drop of a hat. And so it's sad to see, particularly if you ever watched, Real Genius and if you really enjoyed watching Valley Girl, to just kind of feel like, okay, like she had something, like why would we just not continue to fund this person? So mm-hmm. I'm hoping that people will go watch this and really like see something and really feel like, okay, I need to see everything else that Martha Coolidge has done.
Cool. And so then that brings us to Valley Girl. What's Valley Girl about?
Oh, well, Valley Girl, it's in the title. Valley Girl is basically about this popular, pretty, girly girl. I'm a Barbie girl. I mean, she's not really a Barbie girl, but she's got that kind of like bubblegum personality from the Valley and her kind of falling for this rugged, edgy Hollywood punk Randy played by Nicolas Cage. It's really like, he was a punk, she did ballet.
That's exactly what it is.
And Avril Lavigne.
Bubblegum is the perfect way to describe the aesthetics of this movie.
Oh, very much so.
Right. Like we are locked in. I mean, of course, like looking at it now, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
How much feathered hair do we need?
Seriously.
How much pink and turquoise?
It was so pink. But I kind of loved it too, because you think about it. I think it was made in like 1983. That was peak 80s.
It was.
And what was interesting about this is like it really started out about Julie breaking up with her boyfriend, who apparently is just like, okay, well, I don't even know what we have in common. Like, yeah, he's hot, but this is giving me what's the song? So you're Brad Pitt.
It was very much like that.
That don't impress me much, girl. Like,
Yeah.
and she was just like, I just need something else. And of course, she like has this electric encounter with Randy, played by Nicolas Cage, and she's struggling because from the world she comes from, you know, the upper middle class or middle class, you got to a really nice school, you live in the best zip code, you get to go to the mall with your friends and they're all hot. You're going to be prom queen, no doubt. And you have this guy who's just like, I don't care what society wants from me. I'm kind of living on the edge. I like stay out at night. You know, I'm like a nerd slash punk slash, you know, it's very obviously from the 80s. They always distinguish between those two classes of people.
They
very
do, yeah.
Romeo, very Juliet, which is really interesting because one of the shots they're like standing in front of a movie theater and it has Romeo Juliet up on the sign. So I was like, girl, I see what you did there. I see what you did.
I also have in my notes, like, why do we like the Romeo and Juliet trope?
Yeah, because it did end very well.
It doesn't end well.
No.
But perhaps we can get to that. But you're absolutely right. Like, it's set in the Valley. It's the 1980s, early 1980s at that. Everything is bubblegum pink. Everything has light blue. Malls are the one place that you will go to shop, right?
Shop.
Like,
yeah. That girl,
Amazon has not been birthed yet.
No. That girl picked up those shoes and I was like, see, the difference between you and me, girls, I would have checked under the shoe for the price.
Yes. Yeah, actually, you're right. The first scene is them shopping, right? And so it's supposed to set up this idea like, oh, this is Americana right here. Like,
well, let me ask you this, though. You know, teenage Carris, like, what were you doing? Like, what were you going?
That's so funny. I had a teenage question for you too. The teenage Carris grew up with a dad who is a bus driver and a mechanic, and a mom who's also a bus driver. We went to Ross, and we went to Marshall's. Okay, maybe a Kohl's. And when I asked to like walk around at the mall with my friends, my dad said, he said, "What? Why would you do that? You don't have any money." He said, he goes, why?
Oh, for real?
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
You can't just walk around.
And do what?
And do what? And so it happened maybe once and it never happened again. What about you?
So funny. No, I feel like my mom had the same, like my mom would always want to come with me to the mall, which obviously as a teenager was like so not cool. And I got to a point where like, you know, I was allowed to go and we would just kind of wander from shop to shop, looking at things that we definitely were not going to buy, but we were going to try on. And, you know, it was nice. I mostly went to the mall as a way to meet boys. Let me just be honest. Like my parents are very conservative, very Christian. And so I'd be like, I'm going to the mall with my friends. But really, it was a meetup date with some boys as well.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it was cute. It's bubblegum cute, you know. I had my moments.
It is. It's bubblegum cute.
And so, like, I really felt like she nailed kind of the teen experience, the house parties, the, you know, like, because at first when I was watching it and I was thinking to myself, you know, because sometimes when you see, particularly nowadays, when you see like depiction of teenagers, it sometimes feels a little adultified and you know, teens are adultified in certain ways, but you know, you'll watch like Euphoria and they're going to a club and I'm like, who is letting you into these places? Like, oh, for sure. I wouldn't have, I mean, obviously different upbringing, but I would never have dared to just like leave home that late, go to a club, take drugs in that way. And I feel like the way that it was depicted, at least in this movie, felt a little more closer to home. The mall, for sure. Eating burgers and fries, going to your friend's house party, getting dressed up at your friend's place. Like those all felt very, very realistic. Yeah,
for sure. Like the first 20 minutes of the movie, they are establishing the differences, or one, they're just establishing the world of the Valley, right? and is supposed to be all American, honest, and has a sense of positivity to it.
Yeah.
Even if there is some weird stuff happening, right? But it's supposed to be like really, really hopeful.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I'm trying to think like what was going on in 1983 in the news because it was very much not happening here.
Exactly. It wasn't happening. And so there's something to be said about that. And the antithesis of the Valley, or to the Valley maybe, is Nick Cage and his friend Fred. Fred, which I'm like, Fred is his name?
Ain't no punk called Fred.
Yeah. So Randy and Fred with, okay, what are the two colors that punks always wear?
Red and black.
Red and black. Red and black. And it's always a little DIY.
Yeah. They cut off the sleeves and everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I would have rocked that look. That wasn't too bad, And I think at some point Fred had he keeps changing the color of his hair, the top part. And it was like a red and then there was a blue. I think at some point it was a purple. And I was like, boy, this cannot be good for your roots.
Yeah. And so somehow, some way, there's a party being thrown, and I think it's by Susie, who's one of Julie's best friends.
Yes,
and Nick I see. That's one of the hard things. Like I can't think of him as Randy. I just keep thinking of him as Nicolas Cage. Yeah, but I'll try. Randy and Fred are invited to this party where they are dancing, very interestingly.
Yeah,
and serving sushi. as a snack.
Oh my God. That sushi scene made me cringe so much. Let me tell you why. Because I'm gonna here's me alienating all my audience real quick. It was such a white thing. Like, first of all, they took all of the wasabi, dumped it, and made a little sauce with the soy, and then just slattered it on top of all of the sushi. And I was like, this is not the way.
Yeah. They were kind of eating it like as if it was a charcuterie board or something.
Exactly.
Like that they're scooping up cheese and putting it on the top.
It's true what they say. Money don't buy you taste. Like it really doesn't. Like to have all of that sushi, which is supposed to be refined, and the cut of fish is supposed to be like the best cut, and you just drown it in sauce. Oh man, I was just like, no.
I was also disturbed by the fact that and this is also a COVID thing for me. Yeah. I mean, it's always been a thing, but definitely after COVID, I look at all that kind of stuff differently. But that there's just this massive amount of food and everyone has their hands on it.
Yes.
And it's warm.
And teenage boys don't wash their hands, girl. Like they do not. They go into the bathroom, they're coming out, they're putting their hands on, oh God, I'm already getting chills.
Yeah. And that was happening at that party, right? People are going in and out, people are making out with each other, touching door handles. And so very quickly, Randy and Fred realized that this is not the place for us to be. Not quicker than Tommy, Julie's newly ex-boyfriend, who decides to pick a fight and throw them out.
Which is wild because just 5 minutes before, he had his hands on Julie's best friend's breast.
Exactly.
And I was like, and this is, men being so possessive. I feel like we have like a whole subject about love on here. But the possessiveness of it all, that like, I'm going to like try to get any of these girls here to make Julie jealous. Julie is like, I don't care. Like, it's over. And as soon as he sees her with somebody else, it's like, the idea that we have to fight for a girl, like beat up each other, and that's going to impress. It's so primitive. It's so like caveman. Like, no.
It is very primitive. That's exactly what it is.
Tommy, read a book.
Yeah. It's like, no, this is not sexy. This is not you taking initiative, which I feel like some of Julie's friends throughout the movie try to spin Tommy's behavior as like him just being so in love and
that he's lost his mind.
And I'm like, no, this is abuse.
No, it is abuse. And I would kind of want to go back to Nicolas Cage for a second and given that this was his initial role. Like, it's weird. Over the last week, I've seen 3 Nicolas Cage movies unintentionally. I know, that's a lot of Cage.
So wait, has it been like spread out so you're seeing him age? Is it?
Yeah, pretty much. So like, what was it? First one was Valley Girl. It actually aged backwards because Valley Girl was the last one that I watched. But before that, I watched Dream Scenario, which is the most recent movie that he's made. And he's very old. He's balding up
bald
here.
spot. He's a little
Have you seen that movie?
I haven't seen it, but it looked interesting because he's appearing in people's dreams, right?
He's appearing in people's dreams. Yeah. And it's great. I love him in it. Like, it's one of those things where like you realize yes, Nicolas Cage is an action star, but he is also an actor. Like, he really takes his role seriously. And so I watched him in that. And then I think it was either in between that and Valley Girl, it came up on TV, Moonstruck.
Oh, yeah.
And he's in that too. So literally, it is him aging backwards. His very Benjamin.
Sure did.
But it made me see like, oh man, like just kind of his evolution as an actor. If you take out kind of the action hero stuff, like, the bullets and the guns and the tough guy, and you just kind of see him really just get into a role and dig into it with his teeth. It's like he is a great actor. He does his own thing that puts Nicolas Cage on it, right? And what's really interesting to me, and I found this out years ago, is that he's actually from like movie dynasty. Like, he is the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh, well, didn't know that.
Yeah, he is Sofia Coppola's cousin. And I guess starting out, he was like, I want to be in movies, but I want to be selected because I'm an actor, because I'm good at it, not because of my uncle's name or my cousin's name. And so he changed his name to Cage. So his name is really Nicolas Coppola.
Oh, cool.
So he changed his name to Cage, and he initially was on the reject pile for this movie. And I guess Martha Coolidge was like, I don't want a traditional hot guy for this role of Randy. I want someone that exudes sexy, like you would be like, oh, am I really attracted to this guy? Like that kind of thing, right? And Nicolas Cage, yeah, absolutely perfect. Like, he's not traditionally beautiful, but there is something charismatic about him. And so she picks up his like photo off the reject piles, like, this guy, let's call this guy in. She looks at his audition tape. He has great chemistry with the actress that plays Julie. And apparently there was some kind of conflict with him being in this movie. I guess he was going to be in another film, and the film was with Francis Ford Coppola. Like, it wasn't like a huge role or anything. So she calls up the studio and she's like, hey, by the way, is it okay if you let this guy go so he can be in my movie? And that's how she found out that they are related.
Nice.
Isn't that just because she didn't know when she picked him? She didn't know. But it kind of goes to show that he did have something very early on. And, he said that some of the advice that Martha gave him when he started out, because he was very young in this role, has been the advice that he has used in every movie that he's been in. And so in a way, she made the Nicolas Cage that we know today. Isn't that wild? Martha.
It is wild.
Kingmaker.
Look at Martha doing that work. Yes.
Kingmaker over here, and learning about that again after watching 3 Nicolas Cage movies in a week. And I was like, girl, Martha, you should be getting commission right now.
Yeah, really. 10%.
All around.
Come on, 10%.
And I think choosing him really made a difference, because I feel like I could sense the chemistry between those two.
For sure. And I think what you were saying about his look, like, Nicolas Cage is a handsome man, but when we toss him up against all the other people that we find kind of traditionally handsome, he doesn't always hit that same mark.
No.
And that's because of something that we have agreed to. It's like a conditioning, right?
Yeah.
But in this movie, although young and has crazy hair, he has adorable big eyes.
He does.
Oh my God, as a teenager, girl, I thought, I love them silent but deadly. I don't know why that was like a thing for me as a teenager. So any man that spoke 10 words, I was like, that's the one.
That's one for me. Mm-hmm. He just looks
silent.
at you.
He just looks at you. He just gets it. It's in the eyes, right? And so Nicolas Cage has that going on.
He really, yeah, he does. He does. I mean, I think about his other movies now where he just kind of does the eyes.
Yeah,
thing.
he does the eyes thing.
Oh, okay. Are you
so,
me?
let's see. So Nicolas Cage, so Randy and Fred get thrown out of the party. They start to leave, but they turn around because Randy has so much passion in his heart. He's like, no, that girl is for me.
Yeah. And how dare this guy toss me out of a party that I wasn't invited to?
Exactly. How dare he, just because I'm a punk. And so he goes back to his house and climbs in through the bathroom window.
Creepy.
Right. And you keep your eye on that. There's some more creepy behavior that happens that we think in the 1980s was love, right?
Apparently.
Love. He goes into the bathroom and hides out in the shower.
Yep.
Waiting for her to come into the bathroom.
On the off chance that she's going to need to use the bathroom.
On the off chance that she needs to use the bathroom. Let me tell you, you know me well. Have you ever seen me use somebody else's bathroom?
No.
Only my best of friends. I've been in your bathroom. We have a good friend named Christina. I've been in Christina's bathroom. Other than that, I don't use other people's bathrooms. No. I try my best not to.
He would have been waiting there forever and a day for you.
He really would have. He really would have. Him and those big, pretty eyes.
Oh.
But eventually she comes in and he rescues her from the party.
Yes.
And true to form, she leaves with a best friend, which I thought was very smart.
And I would totally do that. I can't count the amount of times I've dragged my best friend Priya and be like, so let's go. And she's like, where we go? I was like, well, I'm going to meet this boy. And she's like, oh my God.
Exactly. Take someone with you. Yeah. Even to this day, I haven't gone out on any dates in a long time. But if I was, or if I had someone coming over, I send a text to a friend.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, here's a make and model of his car.
Here's his picture, social security number.
As much as I can, because it's weird, you know? We live in weird times.
I mean, it's just women's safety. Like, you know, guys don't think about that. If they bring a friend along, it's so that like they can both score. But when a girl brings another girl along, it's like, I need to feel safe. Like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly. Different. I don't know what's going to happen. So her and her friend, I can't remember which friend it was.
Ooh. That's a good question. It wasn't the one who...
it wasn't Lauren.
Who was hosting the house party. And it wasn't the blonde one that Tommy was touching her...
Yeah.
Her very, very special boobies.
I like how their names are like Susie, Julie, Lauren. But we can continue on. We'll find the name. You'll find it for me.
I will find it.
They leave together, her and her friend, Randy and Fred. They get in the car, something that looks like a stinking Lincoln. I don't know what it was, but it was a big body vehicle.
That's great. I got to keep that in the stinking Lincoln.
Stinking Lincoln. And what do? They go to his home away from home. Like you said, a bar.
Yeah, a bar. Which I'm like, who is letting these teenagers into this bar? And suddenly, like, even the lighting changes. Everything is like moody and dark and red. And
red, yeah.
That place reminded me of emos. Did you ever go to emos? Yeah. It was giving strong emo Barbarella vibes for sure. And this is for people in Austin. Shout out.
Yes, Barbarella for sure. Dancing, music, probably some interesting smells.
Yes.
Everything's a little moist. You know, like it's that kind of you're like, oh God, no.
It's coming back to me.
That kind of place. But he says that it's his home away from home, and they have a discussion about a really on the surface discussion about the differences between the city, which is Los Angeles, and the valley.
Yeah.
And how, which I think is always funny at this point in time, that the valley, everyone is living. What did he say? You're all being controlled by the man. You know,
I'm just like, so is LA.
Yeah, so is LA. It's LA, right? it's hard not to look at that place or that depiction of LA and know what you know now about LA.
Yes.
So I'm being a little unfair, but at the same time, it's like, okay, whatever. So of course, LA is bad and dangerous.
Yeah.
People are drinking, smoking. There are people of color walking around.
Oh, not the people of color.
Not the people of color. They're dancing. There's lights.
I know. Ooh, not the lights. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, you could probably see it in the difference between like, you know, living in the city versus suburbia. There's always been that different mentality, even though, and like under the surface, there's kind of some racial tinge to it when they're actually talking about the city.
For sure.
You know, the whole like white flight to the suburbs for this life that is clean and better and, you know, middle class, upper class, that kind of thing. I mean, I feel like you could film this pretty much anywhere, like Chicago, New York, or
For sure. There's definitely a class element to it or racial element to it.
Yep.
That I think you and I could never not see.
Yeah.
You know, never not read into it. But all in all, it still goes back to a Romeo and Juliet thing. Like two different people, two different families, two different places.
Yes.
But they keep going. They are in love, damn it. And then they have a makeout scene in the car. And so this was one of my first questions was, I'm sorry, Greg.
I will be as transparent as possible.
Was makeouts as a teenager in the car. Do you have any? Well, you're from the UK. Y'all have trains and stuff.
Yeah, like we didn't have cars.
Y'all have cars. We had cars.
Oh no, where we made out behind the bicycle shed. That's where we made out. Because everybody was. Cute. I was from Cambridge. Everybody was cycling, you know. Or you made out of the back of the bus. Oh,
nice.
You know, if you were a cool kid, you would sit in the back of the bus.
Oh yeah,
in the back of the bus.
God, even to this day, I hate that. I hated it then. I hate it now. I'm like, I refuse. I paid my $1.50.
Yeah, Rosa Parks didn't do what she did for us to sit in the back of the bus.
Exactly. Exactly. I was like, I refuse. So there was no making out on any bus for me, but definitely in cars because by 15, 16, people were starting to drive and have cars.
Yeah.
For those of you out there in the listening world, I am from Dallas, Texas. So buses came every 30 minutes, you know, like
you would have been done making out after 30 minutes.
Exactly. And then, my God, my parents worked for the bus company. Could you imagine me trying to make out on a bus?
And it was your dad's bus?
It's my dad's bus or someone that's like, I know your mother, you know? That would never happen. But definitely made out in some cars and the movie theater.
Yes, movie theater was big.
The movie theater. Now, I remember going to see The Matrix, and my boyfriend at the time wanted to make out in the back of the movie theater, and I was like, I actually want to watch this movie. This movie. And so I get pressured into. I make out with him, and there's this man and his son right next to me.
Oh no!
And I regret that to this day.
Sorry, man, and your son. Hopefully, you don't remember this.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, we've done it now. Can we please? I want to watch the movie.
Yeah,
and ended up doing that.
Oh my gosh.
God.
Makeouts, man. But it's beautiful. I feel like it was a tasteful makeout. It wasn't like the makeouts that you see here where they're literally trying to eat each other. Consume each other. It was very like shy and we're still figuring out like what this is. But I think for Martha Coolidge, she, this script was apparently written in 10 days. So it was very short.
Oh, interesting.
Like, the movie felt very kind of compact, right? It was a very straightforward story. Guy meets girl, girl meets guy, two worlds apart type thing. But where she really fleshed it out for me was the montage where she shows them gradually falling in love, learning about each other, finding out about each other. And, I was really surprised because like if this was a modern movie, they would have been boning by now. And there was a point where like I think one of Julie's friends was asking her like how far they'd gone, and she was like, yeah, we haven't gotten that far. Like we've made out. And there's something kind of, sweet about that, particularly when you're in high school and there is that pressure to like really move fast when it comes to your sexual experience. And that connection with them was just greater than physical, And I think she says that she's like, I feel like we have a connection. I feel like there's something there that is just beyond whether you're just a hot guy. And I love that, like if there's anything that's going to make me watch rom-coms, it's that kind of conversation that it's not just raw sexual energy, that it's something more.
Yeah, I agree with that. The raw sexual energy, while it can be nice, it fades after a while.
Yes.
And then when it's in a movie or when it's being depicted in a movie, it's really difficult as a viewer and as someone like myself who overanalyzes to see it. It's like, I don't get what's happening here.
Yeah. Particularly if you are not like attracted to that person too, it's hard for you to understand like, wait, like, why are you into this guy? Like,
yeah, absolutely. So we have a good 3 minutes of montage.
Yeah.
And what are all the elements needed for a 1980s montage?
But you need a good music. You gotta, the beats gotta be going. You gotta
have some music.
Yeah. They gotta, you have to be crossing a street, going past the lights. It was like, we were like, how do I depict that I'm in downtown LA? Lights.
Constantly lights.
You're cruising down the street in the car.
Yeah.
Your best friend's ride, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And they're like cuddled up in the car while they do it, wind in the hair kind of thing. Going to the mall together, laughing and shoving food in each other's mouths. Oh, so cute. Sushi.
Yeah, there was no more sushi after that. It was pretty much just here's a fry. And it was really sweet. I really loved the montage. I think the montage is probably my favorite part because I started to understand like they were goofy in the same way. Like they understood each other's like level of humor. And it made sense because, she had dumped Tommy because she was missing that. She didn't have that with him. And Tommy, personally, I did not find Tommy to be hot at all. I think like one of his friends was hotter. But like the fact that it was just like, she was just with him because he was the thing that you had to be with if you were the popular girl, right? He had all of the external elements, and to have something else with somebody that was like fun, and she didn't have to be like her best self. She could just be like, I think even the way that she dressed changed. Like she was less like, oh, I got to put on my face. It didn't have to be fully beat, like I could just wear a t-shirt. I could just like rock, be normal. And, that's love, being able to be yourself with somebody, your best self with somebody.
Yeah. Or your worst self, right? Like how you work through that. And so shortly after the montage, she goes to a sleepover at a friend's house.
I got to think about that.
What do you? Sleepovers. Another thing that happens in the 80s a lot, apparently. What are you thinking about the sleepover?
No, it was less about the fact that they had a sleepover and more, my commentary is more about the friends. But you say your piece. You go.
Oh, no, it was definitely about the friends, right? I was like, okay, are they jealous or are they concerned? And I could never quite land on where the friends stood, or if they were concerned about image, or if they were concerned about Julie. But they just put a lot of pressure on her and created this idea that she has to choose between Tommy and Randy. And it's
there's no choice. The choice, she already made her choice. She dumped Tommy. Tommy's not even in the equation, but they kept bringing him into the equation. And like, I think for me, this is probably more a general conversation about friendships. Like, I think that it's really, it's great if you have friends. They're like, oh no, this person isn't good for you and you shouldn't be with them. Like, I think that that's important in friendship to have those honest conversations. But I think that good friends also recognize when you are better with somebody, like when someone has brought something new and interesting in your life. And you could really tell that Julie was happy. She was having a great time. But I think that it was an image thing. Like they
Absolutely.
all have grown up together. They've all gone to the same school. They all have the same idea about what type of life they want. And it's like, they're going to marry somebody like Tommy. They're going to have this many kids together. And Randy entering the picture. And I think they even talk about that because at one point, somebody was like, is she going to marry him or something? Like, they made it seem, I was like, guys, you're in high school. No one has, no. Yeah, no. We boning for like a good few years. And there's this idea that like, this like dream that they've all, collective dream they all had together, that somebody is no longer part of the pack. Like this, you know, and if Julie isn't following the rules, what does that mean for all of them? You know, and the fact that they really encouraged her to go back to this toxic guy who, you know, is happy to pick a fight, it would willingly sleep with one of them, like in a drop at the drop of a hat,
and spread rumors about it.
And I'm just like, why? And I think what really frustrated me was that I think it was Lauren, the girl that he tried to sleep with, who was like, nah. I was like, tell your friend. I mean, you don't have to like say, oh, he tried to sleep with me, but at least you know that he's not a good guy. Like, why would you encourage or stand back why the other friends encourage her to go back to this guy that is clearly not good? Like, you know, whether or not you think Randy is great for her, like encouraging her to go back to something that is not good. And she recognized it wasn't good enough for her to like leave because she wanted better. I was just like, this is some bullshit. Like, and I am lucky enough to have friends that, you know, obviously would support me if they find me with somebody that is making me happy. So I was kind of very annoyed by the whole girl dynamic going on.
For sure. Me too. It's hard to remember that age and that age through this lens.
Yes. Because we've been through it.
We did. We've been through it in some form of fashion, whether it's in your late teens to your early 20s. Like the early 20s of dating is not too far from this kind of thing. But people, like you said, they don't like difference.
No.
And they say very, very early on, you know, when Julie starts talking about like, I think I'm going to break up with Tommy. It's like one of the first scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
And she's looking at another guy and they say, you can't have them all. Right. And so there's this idea that she kind of possesses and has all the things that they want.
Yeah.
That she has the cute guy.
Yeah.
And he's hot. Her dad calls him Lancelot.
Oh my God. Her dad was probably the best friend that she needed, because he was just like, who cares what your friends think? Like if they're your friends, they will support, you know, when someone is making you happy, you know, like I was like, dude, I don't even have words for 83 for a guy to be like, you know, giving some of this best advice from a grown person perspective. And I was just like, girl, listen to your dad. I don't always say listen to your dad, but listen to your dad. Like in this,
I thought it was really good. Like her dad, I saw immediately, I was like, oh, you have the hippie parents. Like your parents were the hippies in the 70s and getting high and stuff. Which you see later on that her dad is like trying to smoke a joint in the bathroom and not be bothered. But he comes from a different era where he's like, his era fought hard against the ideas that are in the valley.
Yes, right? Exactly. Which is funny because that's where he ended up anyway.
That's where he ended up anyway. But he's actively like working hard against that. Even when she comes home like late after that very first date, they don't punish her.
No.
Instead, they want to have a conversation about it. And they say that it's bad karma if we punish you.
Tell me you were not raised by a black parent without telling me you weren't raised by a black parent.
Really? I know. I don't even know if my parents know the word karma. I don't think they know or care.
No. But
yeah, her dad gives her some sage advice.
He really did.
Did she listen though?
No. I mean, and it's really interesting that it came from a man and not from, you know, there's normally in those scenes, it's like a mother to daughter conversation. And I love that, you know, Martha switched it up and was like, yeah, why wouldn't the dad, if there's anybody that knows about these F boys, it's gonna be the dad. Like, of course he's gonna give you best advice.
There you go.
So I absolutely love that. And, I didn't understand why. I mean, I guess I do. As a teenager, you don't really listen to your parents as much as you should. Your friends are really kind of the epicenter of your morality, of your values, of all of that. So I get why like that eventually won out because, the breakup with Nick and also Nikki, baby, don't be showing up at people's houses without calling first. Like,
oh yeah. Yeah. He shows up as she's thinking through all of these things.
Yes.
He talks to her dad. This is right after the sleepover. And she's made a decision that she's going to get back together with Tommy. And she clearly regrets the decision and doesn't want to do it. But she also wants to be popular. She wants to continue to be invited to parties and continue to hang out with her friends.
I know.
Something that her friends brought up is like, well, if you continue dating this guy, we're not inviting you to parties. He can't come anywhere.
There are real life consequences for her that feel like the end of her world as she knows it.
Exactly. Exactly. And so Randy shows up and, being all cute and stuff. And he just like wants to tell her that he loves her. And she picks a fight.
I mean, I think it also was because she was also struggling, and it was like she hasn't had a space to really think about and really come to just really like deal with the decision that she's making. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now you're here in my face, like go away, and I think that him showing up unannounced really pushed her over to make the wrong decision. And yeah, it was, one thing that I had learned about this fight was like it was really, really hard for them. Like it was one of the hardest scenes to film.
Oh, that's interesting.
Apparently they were like dating in real life.
Oh, okay.
And they hadn't broken up. They were like, obviously they really liked each other in life, which is why they had so much good chemistry. So how can you film a breakup scene before you've actually even broken up in real life? Like, it took a lot of takes to get that. And
that's interesting.
Really feel it, like just the way Julie was emotional, and like Randy's eyes was already like red for probably the 5th time he's cried during this scene. It was a tough breakup scene. I could see it.
Yeah, it was tough for me because, and this you're from the UK because you're going to be like, that's not a problem. I already can tell. I cannot have somebody telling me fuck you.
Oh.
See, I knew it because it's like, so some people use it in like a funny thing, like, oh, fuck yous, or something like that.
Yeah, but see, the word we would have thrown out to really hurt you would have been the C word. Yes. Y'all like
the see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday, bitch.
Yeah, I cannot do a fuck you. If you tell me fuck you, I'm like, oh, like I just. And someone told me that that's because I'm from Texas and people from the South get angrier quicker.
No, y'all do reach like 0 to.
I have been known to lose my temper from time to time, but it takes me a really long time to get there.
60 seconds.
Yeah, 60 seconds. It only takes 60 seconds.
It's a slow 60, but we're going to get there. And that was one of my things because he starts yelling. Of course, he's frustrated. He's like, you don't have to do this. Yeah.
You are letting people dictate our relationship. But then he yells, fuck you, as he's like leaving.
Like for real.
Yeah, for real. Fuck you.
Totally.
Well, fuck you. Now fuck off for sure. Like totally.
Really?
Totally. Oh yeah. I wrote down.
And that's when I knew. I was like, that's Nick Cage right there. Nick Cage, the actor, that's him.
No.
That was an ad lib. That was not in the script.
No, it was not in the script. Could you be with someone that yelled "fuck you" after an argument? I don't know. At this day and age, it's different. At
this day and age,
19,
no,
15.
It'd be very hurtful. It'd be hard to. But I feel like even as a teenager, if somebody even said, if they apologize, like we fight all the time as teenagers, and then we make up so quickly. So I feel like they probably would have being like, oh yeah, you said that water under the bridge. Let's just make out, you know?
Yeah. I'm not sure. Carris now, absolutely not.
No,
And
no.
then maybe Carris then as a young person, like in my teens, like you said, it would probably take, you'd have to apologize, and it would take me a couple of times, a couple of interactions to warm up to you again. But
I mean, it kind of did in this case. Like he was popping up and pretending to be the concierge guy at the theater. He popped up and tried to be the waiter when they drove in for some burgers. Yeah. And this is how dumb Tommy is. At no point did Tommy realize that this is the man that he beat up not once.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like this guy has been showing up and he's been a problem for you and you did not recognize him. Like his disguises weren't that great.
They weren't. They were only like glasses or a voice. Yeah. So after they break up, Randy licks his wounds for a little bit. He gets drunk and makes out with a girl at his bar, his home away from home. And then Fred gives him the advice of, you got to get crazy. Yeah. You got to get crazy. Romantic gestures. Girls love this shit. You got to do your say anything moment, you know? Boombox. So, in your boombox. What was that other movie with the title cards where he's telling her like, I love you, but I can't?
The Love Actually.
Love Actually, yeah.
Which that's a problematic scene all by itself. I said what I said. Okay, that's somebody else's woman. No.
Yeah, and how bold to do it, like just standing
while he's
there
in the house.
While he's in the house.
Yeah, what if he answered the door? Anyway, side note, watch it. It's not a female directed movie, but go watch it.
Yeah. But the grand gesture, right? Yes. Fred basically gives him advice to make a series of grand gestures, and somehow, some way, Randy shows up as the burger boy, as the concierge at the movie theater.
I feel like there was one other one that I can't remember before showing up at junior prom. Where they're like all dressed up and stuff, showing up in the limo, and she's decided to be with Tommy. But obviously, like over time, Tommy's just been annoying her. Just the existence, his mere existence has gotten her just like, oh God, we gotta be prom king and queen. I can't even stand being next to you right now.
Yeah, she won't let him kiss. She was giving very much Melania Trump energy. Like, no, you can't hold my hand. No. Flicking his hand away and stuff. Yes. I called Randy's, I put it in my notes that Randy's grand gestures equal stalking.
No, but they do. I mean, in the 80s, that was all the rage. I sometimes even think they still have that now in modern movies. And I don't, men, if you are listening, it's not cute. Unless we invite you, it's not cute. Like, I don't want to, if I bump into you, like that's a different story, but I don't want you showing up constantly, like when I'm trying to process things. Like,
exactly. No. Exactly. Oh, so this is also what he does. Randy jumps in her car on the way to school.
Yes. Oh, that was.
He dedicates songs to her on the radio.
Okay, that was kind of cute.
And then he sleeps. That was cute. That was cute.
Probably the least creepiest.
It was the most normal thing because that's what you did.
You did back then.
Did you ever do it?
No, but I loved the, I think I might have told you about this. So in the UK, they have this like radio station that if a guy is like hounding you for your phone number, you give that person the radio's number, and it looks like a normal number, and they can call and leave a voicemail, and they play it on the radio at midnight. It is my favorite. I mean, I try to remember what it was called, but it was my favorite thing to listen to because without doubt, the guy would always call her while he was drunk. Hey, Stacey, it's me. Remember, we met at this party. You will fit, baby. Oh, okay. Call me back.
I love that. You're like, he's always drunk.
And I'm just like, okay, first of all, why didn't you even call the number to make sure it was the right number? But yeah, like, I mean, the radio thing is super cute. I love that. But Everything else was
stalking, even sleeping on the front lawn.
Yes. Oh, I forgot. That was the other thing. And it was no.
Yeah.
No.
And then we finally get to where he shows up at the prom. He fights with Tommy. Tommy loses and they run off together. But in like gangsta fashion, whose car / limo do they run off in?
Tommy's,
right? And they get in the car, and then the limo driver asks, to the Sheridan? And he goes, yeah.
Which is crazy because Julie didn't know that they were going to go to a hotel after.
That was my big problem too.
Yeah.
Is that Tommy
but her friends knew. Her friends knew.
And I thought that was gross.
Yeah. He was like, I'm going to get it tonight. And she was just like, you ain't even getting a kiss from me on stage.
Exactly. Not even on stage. So I didn't like the fact that these men made that decision.
Yeah.
But again, I am nearing 40. I'm a 40-year-old womanist. And so
you're not. Look at you, young gun. No, you're not.
I know. I know. My chiropractor told me I have bursitis.
What does he know? He's only a chiropractor.
Yeah. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Help me out. Crack my hip.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's where the movie ends, with them, I guess, having love time.
I mean, we don't know. It's like, do they stay together? You know what's really interesting? It took me like a minute to recognize this, but did you ever watch The Graduate from 1967 with Dustin Hoffman?
I did.
That scene is the end of the scene is the same one.
I did. I noticed that too.
Yeah. It's a little different because I feel like in The Graduate,
they're on a bus.
They're on a bus. And there's this, they start smiling, but their smiles fade. And it's kind of this like, oh, what have we done?
Yeah.
Whereas like in this one, it's like, there's this realization of like, I mean, for Julie, there's kind of relief. Like, I don't care anymore. Like, whatever. They want to shun me, whatever. Like, I'm happy. This is where I want to be. And he's happy that he finally got her, even though, you know, his path there was, you know, maybe not something that I would encourage. But I love that kind of tribute to The Graduate because it's really interesting. We don't talk about this, but at some point in the film, there is the whole teenager trying to sleep with high school.
I was just about to bring it up. Yeah, there's a couple of things that kind of point towards The Graduate. And so Susie, who is Julie's friend, the one with the seems to have the money and the party, is being raised by a single mother or a stepmother. I wasn't quite sure.
I think it's her mother, but the father might not be her father. Maybe.
Okay, there we go. So maybe it's the stepdad. And Susie is really interested in this dude named Skip.
Yeah.
And Skip, not a bad looking kid, but Skip is very interested in Susie's mother.
He was getting The Graduate.
Yeah, they're flirting. He's trying to call during off times and stopping by the house when Susie's
not home.
Yeah. And that was another thing that I was curious about. It's like, why do we like that trope?
I mean, you know, Stacey's mom has got it going on. So
I love it. Good one. That's like your third song.
There is, you know me, girl. I'm going to be doing this a lot. But I mean, I think it's not abnormal for like a young guy to see a very good looking, you know, I like to think that when my son is older and I walk into his high school, that's, you know, someone might try something. I mean, he will fail, obviously. I want to be the hot mom. And I think, you know, there's something about a woman that is, she knows what she's doing. You know, some boys are really into that. Like, you know, they don't want a young girl. They don't want to take a girl's virginity. They don't want somebody that is going to be clingy. And they feel like an older woman who's already been through it is like going to give them what they need, is going to teach them something. And it's a trope, but it's a trope that happens a lot. Like we still see, even when you look at celebrities who are with older women, have you seen Cher's boyfriend?
I have not. I haven't seen her latest boyfriend.
That boy is 30 something and she is 70. And let me tell you, he is very happy.
Yeah, I bet.
And it happens. And I obviously with the high school age gap thing, not so cool. But it's not something that's completely unnatural, I think, from a guy who's developing,
This would be great, Greg, if Greg was to insert his thoughts. I'm like, Greg, tell us what you think.
Yeah, I was like, Greg, any older ladies that you fancy? I'm sure he has a lot. But yes, so I loved the call out to the graduate. I think what was really different here is that instead of it panning out that he does end up sleeping with the mom, he ends up sleeping with the daughter instead. And I think, maybe that's the difference between having a woman directed and a man directed. Who knows? Like, I mean, it'd be really interesting to hear from other stories, like where this trope has existed. Like, does it carry out in the same way, or did Martha give it a completely different? Because when I saw that shower scene, I was like, oh, there he goes.
Yes.
He's with the mom.
Yes. So
and
Skip,
then
at some point in the movie, Skip is like riding his bike down the street, and he stops by, and we get the idea of how it's edited that he's stopping by to see the mom.
Yeah.
Right. But there's no car in the driveway. But something tells him, yet again, another problematic thing, to just like go in the house.
Okay. Yeah. Apparently the door's open in the 80s.
Apparently. So he just walks into the house, and then he hears and sees a foggy image of someone in the shower. And then, of course, we jump to him in bed with someone, and a very beautiful, I will say it was like beautifully filmed.
Yes. Very tasteful.
Very tasteful of him and someone else in the throes of love and passion.
Yeah.
Only to then the door comes open, swings open, and it's actually Susie's mother, Beth, looking at Susie
daughter.
and Skip in the bed.
Yeah. And I liked that twist because definitely in my mind, I was like,
it got me.
Yeah, it definitely got me. So good job, Martha, on that one. And speaking of just like tasteful shots, like one of the things that Martha said that she struggled with was that, the studios wanted her to show tits. She didn't want to show tits. They wanted her to show tits, and they were like, you have to show it at least 4 times because how else will guys be interested in this movie?
Why. Okay. Yeah.
And she was like, they never said how long those tits had to be on screen for. So like, if you see breasts, they are not for a prolonged amount of time.
They're not. Yeah.
And I feel like that was her way to like give the studios what they wanted because they were not going to fund it. They were not going to back her without that addition. And it just goes to show like there's still all of these caveats when you're trying to get a movie made that are kind of out of your control. Like, there are things like sometimes I see in movies and I wonder, is like the director really want this or like, and so that was like a really interesting thing to see. And another thing that she wanted, which tracks obviously for the 80s, but she wanted one of Julie's best friends to be black. And apparently the studios was like, hell no.
no, but we got Lauren, Lauren is something, maybe spicy white, but Lauren is something.
She's just not full mayo.
There you go.
But yeah, so I think the way that Martha went around it, she does sprinkle kind of diversity in the background. You see like more people of color in the background. I think there's a black girl that Tommy is like chatting up with and stuff to show that like there are people in the valley that are not just the white, and I think that, that's something that is a challenge for a lot of creatives and a lot of people who want to get funded is like, they have to find creative ways to get what they want when the studios are very clear about like, this is what we don't want. So, we've reached the end of this movie.
Hey, but it was a good movie. Thank you again for
what did you like
me
it?
To participate. I did. I was like, okay. It's so of its time that it's hard to even dislike it.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm watching something
there is a remake. I think they remade it again later on. Yeah, I don't think it did as well, but I feel like people are revisiting the original because of that and are really kind of enjoying the original a lot more. And I would say that that's great because Martha definitely deserved her flowers. Because if you look at this movie and look at Real Genius, she, among other filmmakers of that era really defined what the 80s aesthetic and the rom-com aesthetic was, right?
Yeah, for sure.
She's definitely a tastemaker in that arena. Our next movie, though, is going to be very different. Speaking of having Black girls getting their flowers, we will be leaving the 80s and taking a quick journey to the 90s to watch Just Another Girl on the IRT from 1992, directed by Leslie Harris. And this movie is about a Brooklyn teen who dreams of becoming a doctor. Obviously moving from the valley to the inner city. And
New York, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. And how that really just, the environment that she's in is really like creating challenges for her fulfilling her dream. And this has been on my list for a hot minute. I'm so excited to finally pull the trigger and watch this. If you haven't seen Valley Girls, sorry for all the spoilers, but you can watch it for free on Pluto TV. You can also watch it on Hoopla as well as Tubi TV too. All of these are free. Hoopla, if you have a library card, you can get it for free. And if you want to jump on and watch Just Another Girl on the IRT for our next podcast, you can also see that. I also believe on Pluto TV as well. So exciting. Anything else you want to add to this before we sign off?
We're good to go. I'm excited for our next movie.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be, to stick to the 80s for just a second, I think it's going to be Bitchin'.
Ooh,
the
I
next
love that.
movie and conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to follow us on Instagram on Screen the Queens and subscribe to our podcast so that you know when the next episode drops. It's so lovely to have you, Carris. And to our audience, ciao, y'all.
Toodaloo.
Walking down the street.
Toodaloo.